Good evening, everyone. It's lovely to be here this evening, and I noticed that people are just joining now, so we'll give everybody a moment to get into the room. As usual, we're recording this evening for the purpose of having the video to watch back on our website. And we're also conscious, of course, that there are people joining from many locations all across the world. So, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. And hopefully, nobody is up in the middle of the night. But if you are, you're still very, very welcome. My name is Timmy Frawley. I'm a member of faculty in University College Dublin, School of Nursing, Midwifery and Health Systems. I'm joined by my colleague Valerie from UCD College of Health and Agricultural Sciences, and of course, Mr. Ken Kilbride, our partner from ADHD Ireland. Of course, Ken is the chief executive with ADHD Ireland, and we thank him for his input. But our guest of honor this evening, and indeed our speaker, is a senior academic colleague from the United States. And of course, while Sarah can introduce herself, I'll begin with an introduction. And of course, Sarah, I misspoke. Sarah uses the they, them pronouns. So I'd like to just acknowledge that and apologize for misspeaking. But certainly, Sarah Saunders Gardner is the designer and director of Bellevue College's nationally recognized Navigators program, which began in 2010 and has grown to serve over 300 students in tiered services. Sarah leads a team of staff, faculty, and peer mentors, designs curriculum, and works to support students, faculty, and staff across campus. Sarah recently retired from teaching after 10 years as a part-time faculty member in the program and still directs the program. In their spare time, Sarah runs Autistic at Work, providing training workshops to universities and corporations in neurodiversity, cultural responsiveness, and more. They were recently the technical editor for Neurodiversity for Dummies and Autism for Dummies by Wiley Publishers. And I know they are two particular publications which we admire, even thinking back to our speaker last month. Sarah's work in the field began in 2001, serving as a parent advocate for primary grade students and their families, teaching parenting classes and growing a 600 family support group as president in Orange County, California. Yeah, of course. I'm pretty sure that's California. I have been, so I'm hopefully familiar with the different uh, uh, abbreviations for each state. Sarah holds professional certification as a collaborative problem-solving trainer from Think Kids, a program in the Department of Psychiatry at the Massachusetts General Hospital. Other education includes coursework in early childhood education at Coastline Community College and post-secondary in English at the State University of New York at Buffalo. And where I would be more or most familiar with Sarah's work is simply from reading some of their papers and academic contributions. And of course, they also contributed to a recent book edited by Andrew Eddy and colleagues, Neurodiversity and Higher Education. And also, of course, the parenting work and education is something I would have been familiar with to Sarah. So thank you for taking the time out of your schedule and welcome. And I'll hand over to you now.
Thanks so much, Timmy, for that lovely introduction. And good morning from the Seattle, Washington area. Sorry about those abbreviations. I'm so US centric, I can't even stand it. Let me get started here. We're going to talk about Neurodiversity Navigators program and what we're founded on and why it works. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, you should be able to see my screen now. Yes? Yes. Okay. All right. So this is a picture of our campus, and these two benches are right outside our offices, which are right over there to the left behind there. And we are called Neurodiversity Navigators now, but we started out as Autism Spectrum Navigators in 2011. And we changed to Neurodiversity Navigators in 2010 so that we could serve more students and not only students with autism. And we are part of the RISE Learning Center at the college. So, our mission is to provide educational opportunities for neurodivergent students, specifically to increase their self-knowledge in executive functioning, self-regulation, social interaction, self-advocacy, and prepare them for careers. We also provide advocacy and access that leads to successful academic outcomes. And I think probably one of the most important parts of what we do is actively promote a campus-wide environment of inclusion and understanding for students, faculty, and staff with neurological differences. And that is a piece that has taken many, many years. People often ask me, what can I do to make that happen next year? You can't. It takes many, many years to weave that into the thread of your campus or institution. So I titled this Neurodiversity Navigator, Students Are the Captains and We Are the Crew, because it's very important for the students to have autonomy over what they are doing. Um, so we have two tiers to our program. One is a cohort program and one is tiered services. Not all students want to explore their identity to the extent that our cohort program does. However, many neurodivergent students do want to stop in sometimes and get some support. So our cohort program, which is what I'll be talking about today, starts each summer and includes peer mentoring and cohort classes and all of the services that are available to tiered services students. And then tiered services are available to all neurodivergent students at the college. And those include drop-in peer mentoring at least twice a day. They can use the Neurodiversity Center. And the Neurodiversity Center has a quiet room, it has study carrels, it has a lounge, it has a book nook, has games, things like that. They can also come to us for advocacy and problem solving support. So they can get advocacy in any area of the college with us. So our program components are cohort career prep instruction, peer mentoring, faculty consultation, faculty, staff, and parents training and support, and then that cross-campus collaboration. And then we're built upon the concepts of social and disability justice, strengths-based identity development, collaborative problem solving, positive psychology, and universal design. So why do we use this framework? It's research-based. And so we use a strengths-based identity development framework because it builds resiliency and provides a base for increased motivation and learning in our students. They're doing what they want to instead of what someone else is telling them to do. We use a social justice and disability justice framework, and I've put links here and towards the end in the Q&A, I can put the deck in the chat so everyone has it. Um, because we believe every student deserves equal rights, opportunities, and supports to education and career pathways. And using that social justice, disability justice structure allows us to support them in removing barriers and support the rest of the college in removing barriers along the way. And of course, you already know universal design is simply an educational best practice that results in motivated, goal-directed, knowledgeable learners for all kinds of learners. One of the things that we do that not many people do over here anyway is collaborative problem solving, which is a research-based way to solve problems with people that increases cognitive flexibility, improves frustration tolerance, and builds problem-solving skills across settings in all people that use it. So like if I use it with someone, I will also be building those skills in myself. I'm kind of an evangelist for collaborative problem solving. And then positive psychology is also research-based to decrease symptoms of depression and improve mood across population. So that's kind of woven into everything we do as well. So these are the essential skills that our students work on in the first year. They are all working on what are their strengths in these areas: self-advocacy, executive functioning, self-regulation, social interaction, but not social skills. So how do they enjoy interacting with people socially? What are their preferred methods? What barriers do they face? What might they need to do socially for a career, or what do they want to do socially that they feel like they can't do right now? And we problem solve around that with them, or they problem solve with themselves, really, and then that problem solving skill. Parents report that they see, excuse me, a major difference in their students' self-advocacy and problem-solving skills from the beginning of the first quarter to the end of the first quarter, which is a really nice indicator that they are learning things. And of course, the students report as well. This is a quote from, sorry, I need a drink of water. This is a quote from our Faculty Commons chair, who says the way this program has approached its work is multifold, so students, teachers, and staff all get the support and opportunity to unlearn and relearn about neurodiversity and disability justice together. It's a long vision to transform biased and harmful institutional structures, and without a program like Neurodiversity Navigators, that transformation simply would not be possible. So who are our students? They are all ages, all ethnicities, all income levels. And the key thing is they all identify as autistic or neurodivergent, and they want to explore that identity. And then they're following all different academic paths. They come in at all levels. We're a community college, so um, we're open access, um, which means they don't have to meet any certain bar to get into the college. And then they're taking all sorts of degree paths as well. And we ask our students three or four simple questions. One is, do you identify as neurodivergent or autistic? And then, do you want to explore your strengths as a neurodivergent college student? We go to great pains to make sure that it's the student that wants this and not their parent for them. And then we also ask them, do you want to study new subjects and meet new people at college? Like, these are very important things. If you're going to college, you need to want to be there. So again, this is what our program it consists of: the cohort program, the courses, the peer mentoring, the parent training, faculty training, and cross-campus collaboration. And 100% of our full-time staff and faculty are autistic, and 75% of our peer mentors are neurodivergent, which we're really excited about because that's not the case in a lot of places. So we work hard to keep it that way. So our career prep instruction courses, the in the summer before they come, they attend a college credit course, which is an orientation to the college where they choose what path they're going to start on and they meet other students in the program. And then in fall, winter, and spring quarters, they're focusing on those essential skills, and they're looking at neurodivergent identity and culture, self-advocacy, executive functioning, self-regulation, and that social interaction. Then in their second year, it focuses more on career preparation. So because we're a community college, many students are only with us for 2 years. So they're focusing on career strengths, aspirations, and goals, finding connections both on and off campus, looking at perspectives of communication, and preparing for internships and job courses. And I've included a link to the series of courses there, which describes the classes in more detail. From a student said, I've met people I never would have otherwise and realized a great deal about myself. I learned a lot about the subject matter and came out better for it. The instructor created a safe learning environment where I feel like I can be myself. And this was actually not about me, but this was the only picture I could find was an old picture of me. So anyway, this is about one of our new faculty, Cole Whitaker. So our peer mentoring, some of the students love it. Some of the students don't want a peer mentor, so they get to decide if they want a peer mentor or not. Our peer mentors are often co-enrolled in an academic internship. So in addition to being paid, they are also getting college credit of their own, either with our college or another institution close by. These meetings are always structured around the students' identified needs, and the peer mentors will collaboratively problem solve with them to help the student come up with a solution. They support the students in checking in with faculty at regular intervals and building that relationship with the faculty that they may otherwise skip. We do have a standardized format that the student can choose within. This helps the student gain skills for if they go to another institution or for when they start a job. We do monitor their academic progress. Um, if the student doesn't want us to, then we don't. Um, we help the student understand that the program itself has been successful, and if they comply with the program protocols, they're likely to be successful as well, but we never force anything upon them. So if they say, I don't want to do that, they don't do it. And then, of course, having a standardized format helps us keep records for the students. We also, because we have a nautical theme, we have a Marco Polo reminders, which are text messages that the student can request to be reminded of almost anything. Um, and they're sent out by a service, so I monitor them frequently. And one of them, a student asks to be reminded to eat lunch. And if I see the eat lunch one, it also reminds me to eat lunch, which is quite handy for me. And then the peer mentors also support the students in accessing all parts of the college. So communicating with instructors, signing up for all different parts of the college, tutoring, advising, financial aid, scheduling their exams, finding their way around, applying for college or graduation, university if they're only taking a 2-year degree with us. Also organizing long-term assignments, joining clubs or starting a club, and much, much more. And then the parent support, what we found is parents need reassurance that their students are in good hands, right? They're very, very anxious about their neurodivergent student going to college. They also need to learn how to best support their student who is now considered an adult in the college environment. And they are still very much wanting to do everything for them, to advocate for them. And we help them learn how to start letting that go and start letting us do some things, and then eventually their student take over. They do have access to me. However, I have promised their students that I will not communicate with the parent unless they are on the email or on a call. So the parents do not have private access to me. They only have access to me with the presence of their student. They do need to network with other parents. So we have a once a quarter meeting with a summer kickoff where we focus on concepts like interdependence, where everyone helps each other in the family, collaborative problem solving, positive psychology, learned optimism, and self-efficacy, and more. From a parent, said I could go on for hours about how difficult high school was, but instead I'll focus on the positive. Our son is both enjoying and doing well in school for the first time. He's learning to be an independent student and to take control of his education. He originally said he'd try the program for 1 quarter, but tells me how much he has benefited from it and plans to continue. And I'm not sure how primary and secondary education is in other places, but in the United States, students with disabilities in general have a very tough time and often come out of it feeling badly about themselves with a lot of internalized ableism. And so part of this program is designed to combat that in the students and help them build their own self-esteem. So our faculty support, we have a pretty robust faculty resources page, and I'm available for individual questions and brainstorming. We do classroom neurodiversity presentations and program and division presentations. We also have a neurodiversity affinity group. The classroom presentations are on neurodiversity, cultural responsiveness, ableism and ability privilege, communication perspectives, and the illusion of normality, which is a presentation that I did for another institution that I just love. So I love our students to hear about it as well. And then program and division presentations. This is a series of courses that I do for universities across the United States. that I also want to bring to our college. So the neurodiversity, cultural responsiveness, pedagogical practices that support neurodivergent students and others. Because as we all know, whatever you're doing for your neurodivergent students are helping all of your students and all of the people on your campus. Common accommodations and pedagogy, managing classroom behaviors. I don't really like to call them behaviors, but the faculty think of them that way. And then college outside the classroom, study abroad, field trips, labs, and more. And then our neurodivergent affinity group is mostly online. We're all neurodivergent. We don't get together that often, but we discuss things that are important or interesting, and we ask and answer questions. So this is Christina Scabara, who's actually now the chair of the political science department, but also teaches classes for us sometimes. And Christina says the Neurodiversity Navigators program has increased visibility of neurodivergent staff and faculty, which ultimately results in greater supports for students. It's a resource for faculty seeking to make their classes more accessible and respond directly to student needs. Having a space on campus and a program that neurodivergent faculty and staff can connect with has created more awareness of neurodivergence and concrete resources to support this population. So the cross-campus collaboration, as I put this list together, I realized that over the years, we really have reached everywhere on campus, including human resources and making a big contribution to the hiring practices at the college, where at this point we have neurodivergent staff and faculty in all areas of the campus. So we also have allies and promoters in all areas of the campus. So, Center for Career Connections, Enrollment and Advising, Academic Success Center, the Disability Resource Center, we're not part of the Disability Resource Center. So, we also work with them. Our counseling program, um, the chair of our counseling program through collaboration with us, ended up going and getting his autism diagnosis, which was really exciting for me. Our faculty commons, our care team and conduct team, which is the cross-campus team that all works together. Title IX is our gender safety team. And that is it. I'm ready for questions. And this is another view. Our office is right below the planetarium. So whenever I tell people how to find us, I just say, just look up in the sky and go to the planetarium and you will find us. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen um, and we can do questions. And I will put I will,
Okay, and thank you very much for your presentation, Sarah. And I see that questions are coming in already. So while I have a couple of questions, and I'm sure Valerie and Ken may do also, I'm going to go straight to Paul, who's asked the question. So this is Paul Kinney, who is the head of architecture in UCD. Hi, Paul. Paul asks, what specific measures have you taken, if any, to address your building spaces and the internal environments, including teaching, social, and staff spaces?
yeah, great question. As they build new spaces, they are building in adjustable lighting, so everyone can adjust the light. They are putting a lot more windows everywhere, so like floor to ceiling windows with shades that go from the top to the bottom or the bottom to the top, so the teachers can adjust those. Um, what they have not done well are the ceilings. So it still can be kind of noisy in spaces. What they have done well is the lighting. Um, the staff space, so our campus was built in 1960. So it's a brutalist design. So we're all in bomb shelters basically. So they've done some with like furniture and things, but the older spaces have not been updated. Our own space, when we got our space, we basically gutted it and then put in all new carpeting and sound barriers on the walls and things like that to make it a little more accessible. We've put light covers on, and we do have the dimmable lights and lamps in every room.
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean that's thank you for your answer, Sarah. I mean, for me, the concept of renovating buildings and retrofitting buildings is an interesting one. Uh, I have no real experience in this area, but with new builds, I can envisage all types of acoustic defenses and adjustable light controls, etc., as well as other innovations. But the retrofitting of our buildings is an interesting one for me. But um, of course, if there's any follow-up questions on uh, space, interior or exterior design, uh, please do ask. But just to focus on another area for a moment, you mentioned Sarah about the uh, credits that participation is credit bearing and students are rewarded for their uh, input participation for the work they undertake. Could you talk a little bit about that and how it operates in practice, if possible?
Sure, sure. Yes, and in fact, I'm not able to put my deck in the chat, so I will have to email it to you later. But let me pull up the courses because I do better if I'm looking at something while I'm talking. But let me pull up the courses and then we can talk about them. Okay. So these courses are transferable elective credit. No, that's not the right thing. I don't know why that came up. Go away. Can you see the courses on your screen?
Uh, yes,
Yes, I can
neurodiversity
see something
framework
that
for.
says course
Okay,
description. Yeah.
perfect.
Mm.
All right. So these courses are transferable elective credits, and they a regular course size at our college is 5 credits for 1 quarter. And so these are smaller than that. So the summer course, Chart Your Course, is 2 credits. And they are, as I said, learning about the college, choosing a pathway, and meeting the other students. Um, and then the other courses are 3 credits, 2 credits. They can mix their executive functioning in the workplace class with a positive psychology course if they want to. Um, but that is only a 2 credit class unless they take it with positive psychology. Um, so these classes are all classes that would count towards electives. When I say that they are, oh, it says my screen sharing is paused, but you can still see? Yes. Okay. Um, they can only take a certain number of them. So we have made sure we fit into that certain number of elective credits that they can take. I want to say it's 14 or something like that. So that's what I mean.
Great, great. And I might ask one final question and then I will remain silent for the rest of the evening. Some people might agree that that wouldn't be a bad thing. But of course, we can circle back to any questions and hear some more from the audience too. But my question is this: uh, in terms of programs and neurodiversity navigators, I'm wondering about uh, institutional support, succession planning, and how good initiatives can be maintained as key personnel might move on, get new jobs, etc. And do you have any hints or tips for universities, colleges, or other institutions who might have good programs running, how they can become part of the fabric? Thank you.
So I can say that in our situation, because we are a state institution, there are clear laws around succession, for example, which means you can't plan for succession. You have to just have a hiring committee and hire someone when someone leaves. And so, as the director of the program, I have to plan for that internally by making sure there's clear documentation, making sure I am building my staff so that they have the knowledge and skills and ability to get the job when it becomes a job, right? So, but because of the hiring restrictions, I was told I cannot plan for succession. However, what I am doing on my own, and they know I am doing this, is teaching several people everything they need to know about what I do, what I believe, what the foundation is, and documenting everything so that the college, should it choose, they can hire someone who wants to follow that path. So that's, other colleges, I would say what I wanted to do was spend 2 years before I retire, having someone get paid a stipend to take a course from me in what to do. But I'll just build that course and they can take it later.
I
Okay.
guess you're having to sorry Timmy, you're having to adapt to whatever regulations are there, but you're working around it, which is great. And I mean, I would imagine that your whole since you set this up, it's been very much a maybe learning on the go and feeling your way, I suppose, because I'm new to this space, and I know that it's only in recent times that there's more acceptance, and more awareness, I suppose. Um, and I had a question from I work a lot with the alumni in the College of Health in UCD, and we would focus on bringing like alumni back to campus to give talks and to talk about their experiences and career panels and all of this kind of thing. Do you find that you have like a lot of people who've been through the college and been through your program, and are out in the working world or out in the world, maybe they're not working, but they're out in the world. Do you have a program where you invite them back for encouragement and so that current students can see that there's, to for like positive influence and stuff like that? Or have you had many come back to the college to give back?
We have had several come back. In fact, we have some that are just so dedicated to us because they're so pleased with their experience. Yes. I will say that we have not done any of that since the pandemic. So, and I don't know if we'll be able to. Our state and our country is in financial crisis right now, so we're just kind of having to stay alive. Um, But yes, we have had some who have just been so excited. In fact, one young man told me that he and his wife have put in their will that half of their estate will go to the program when they pass.
Wow.
I
Wow.
know. I won't be around because they're much younger than I am, but still, I just thought that was so lovely. Um, but yes, they've come back, they've sat on panels, they've talked to our students. I'm glad you're reminding me because I think we need to re-up that again. But it kind of went to the wayside during the pandemic, and a
Mm.
lot of our students will go on to university from us, and so sometimes we lose track of them from there because they get a 2-year degree from us and then they go earn their bachelor's and master's elsewhere. Um, but so did the people who come back. Um,
Mm. Oh yes, I mean you can't possibly keep track of absolutely everybody, of
no.
course, and that's always our battle here as well. But it's great that there's, that there is that positive reinforcement from people who've had a great experience with you, and the legacy thing is a huge compliment. It's great in terms of actual funding, obviously, but it's a huge compliment, and
Yeah.
that's great to hear. Yes, I know that our office here during the pandemic, obviously all those programs and panels and stuff took a hit. So there was a lot of virtual stuff done, but it was very much like feeling your way in the dark kind of thing. And it's only in the last year or two that it's come back to kind of in-person stuff. But it can be done. It can be done, but it's a lot. It takes a lot of work, and it sounds like you already do a whole lot. Just from a personal, before I move on to another question, just from a personal curiosity, I'm not entirely au fait with the college or third level structure in the US. So a community college as versus a university, like, can you just give me a context there of what that means, please?
Sure, yes. So community colleges are set up so that anyone in the community can attend. They don't need to have a certain grade, they don't need to have a certain ability, and they don't need to be a certain age, et cetera, et cetera. So anyone can come and take courses. They do need to either have graduated from high school, secondary school, or have a comparable degree or pass an exam. So typically, community colleges historically have only been for an associate's degree, a 2-year degree. However, many community colleges now also offer baccalaureate degrees. So we have many, many baccalaureate degrees as well. Now, those degrees are degrees you have to assess into, right? You have to um, have the skills or the grades or whatever or the prerequisites to get into those degree paths. So that's what a community college is. So the majority of our students come because it's less expensive. They're getting a good education in a smaller situation. The classes are usually 20 to 30 students instead of 500 students. Many community colleges don't have residence halls. We do have a residence hall. It's usually closer to home, hence community. So community colleges are definitely good for neurodivergent students because they can live close to home. They can have a smaller classrooms, things like that. So that's a community college.
Okay. And then whatever the degree you gain, you're after 2 years in a community college, is that counted towards if you then go and apply to a university? It's obviously like, well, I've just finished a degree, a community college degree, and it's all taken into account, and its merit, the merit of that is considered.
In most cases, that's the plan. That's why people go to community colleges so they can transfer. And we have transfer agreements with many of the local colleges, like the University of Washington, for example.
Mhm. All right,
Yeah.
interesting. I hadn't realized what the kind of the structure was, so that's
Yeah.
that's just a by the by, but it's good to know. Thank you. Let's see. Ken, do you want to take those couple of questions there?
Yeah, there was the first one just came into Gregory. Sarah, do you have a preference to reading yourself, or would you like us to read them out
I
for
can
you?
I can read it. That's
Yeah.
fine. Gregory says, how important is it that the whole community of faculty, professional staff, and students see all colleagues and learners as a diversity to peers, though difference instead of disability? You mentioned your unit sits outside disability, where such supports are important individually and interjectionally. To what extent do you feel everyone has a possibility to benefit? I think it's really important for everyone to see. Neurodiversity as a difference, but also realize that with that difference can come disability, which is why the Disability Resource Center exists. Many of our students do need accommodations in their classrooms. Um, in my neurodiversity cultural responsiveness presentation, I talk about the many co-occurring disabilities that can come with ADHD, autism, etc. So yes, but it is important that they understand that it is a different way of thinking and learning, not an intellectual disability. So I think that that's what you're getting to here in your question. Um, the extent to which I feel everyone has a possibility to benefit, I think every human has a possibility to benefit from some type of education. I'm not 100% convinced that every human can benefit from current college classes the way they are set up. Although at community college, and this is something I didn't mention to Valerie, we have pre-college classes, including adult education classes, adult basic education classes, that several students who want to start in our program start there first because they are reading at maybe a third grade level when they come to the college. And so they need those adult basic education classes to shore up their reading and comprehension and writing skills. So that is one of the wonderful things about a community college is it can help all sorts of learners. Um, but I would say there may be learners who cannot advance beyond that due to their intellectual capacity. That doesn't mean they can't learn, they just may not be able to learn the reading comprehension and the writing skills needed to succeed in a college class, right? Many other things that they can do, many other strengths that they can have. So I do believe that some faculty and staff write off people long before they should be written. No one should be written off, but they think that they can't succeed when they actually can. Hopefully that answers intersectionality. Thank you, Gregory. I didn't know what intertextually meant, but I was just gonna go for it. Yes.
There's a
Um,
second question there from Paul.
I see it. We often look to universal design for learning framework as a positive support to a divergent student body. Have your experience of UDL with your student body? Are you aware of other comparable frameworks that might be better suited to support neurodivergent students? I would say that we do use universal design. However, um, I have sort of adapted it for neurodivergent students because I feel like it's too people make it too complicated and they give it too many bells and whistles, I think. In trying to engage everyone, they do too much excitement, maybe is what I want to say. I do use if you're not familiar with it's Tilt Higher Ed. You can search for it on the World Wide Web. TILT. I'll type it in. It's transparency in teaching and learning and teaching, transparency in learning and teaching. I use this along with universal design, but it has you for each assignment state the purpose of the assignment, state the tasks of the assignment, and the criteria for the assignment. And that's super helpful for all students, but particularly for neurodivergent students. Used within that universal design framework. But of course, for neurodivergent students, it's helpful to have things in writing, to have things always when you're presenting, right? To have things in writing. But then also in their assignments to have a choice of reading the assignment, watching the assignment, listening to the assignment, or all three simultaneously. And then have a choice of how they're going to express themselves, far more than most faculty provide for them, I think.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Just going back to the very start of your presentation when you were talking about building the framework, and you mentioned that you were trying to overcome barriers. Could you maybe tell me what barriers you were trying to overcome and how's that developed over the last 15, 20 years?
What barriers was I talking about? For the students or for in the program?
For the program.
Um, hmm. Well, certainly at the beginning of the program, almost no one knew anything about autism, and it was autism at the beginning of the program. And many people were afraid of autistic students. They certainly were afraid of an autistic staff member. And at that point, I was the only openly autistic staff member on campus. And now there are dozens of us, um, maybe more than dozens. Um, one big barrier was funding. We had no funding. We were kind of just like existing off the dregs from, we were in the Disability Resource Center at that time, and I had to fundraise. The courses are self-support courses, which means that the money from the courses comes to the program, but we have to pay the faculty with it, so we don't really get a lot of money from it. And so every year they would contact me and say, Sarah, your budget is in the red. And I'd say, I don't have a budget. That's why it's in the red. So eventually they funded us. In 2019, when we became Neurodiversity Navigators, the college also funded us. So that was a huge barrier. But the other barrier was just a lot of the ableism on campus. We also didn't have space. We lived in the library for a long time in the little study rooms where our peer mentors would meet with the students, but also other students could use those rooms as well. So it was good though, because the librarians learned so much about neurodivergence during those years, and so did the other students on campus. So just, every time, um, and there's still barriers, right? Because all offices have their own inaccessibilities for our students. And so we keep working with every office. And I think one of the most difficult things in a state system or a governmental system is the top administrators change frequently. And so when I started, the top admin were like, this is great, let's build it big. And then the next administrator was like, this is okay. And then the next one was like, I don't care about this program. And, so they keep changing their minds about how they feel about it. So that's also just an ongoing barrier.
Thanks for that. One of the things, I appreciate Valerie's question because I was thinking much the same questions myself. When you try to compare for me, we're Ireland, the UK, broadly similar education systems, which is a slightly different system than you have in the United States. And one of the things that, is pretty noticeable about the Irish and the UK education system is that, there's particular points and there's particular exams. So in terms of the outcomes that you're trying to achieve with your program, is it a particular qualification, a better individual, better person, or a combination of both?
So, unfortunately, I can't get a certification for them because the rules around certifications are it has to lead directly to a job. So this supports all jobs, so it doesn't lead directly to a specific job. So the broader outcomes of this course series are self-efficacy, autonomy. I don't want to say a better person, but better feeling about oneself,
So,
really self-acceptance.
hmm,
Yeah.
okay. Just expanding on just the question I was just asking there, and, when you look at Ireland, we've actually got it to a particular point where at the end of what you would call high school, we have what's called the leaving certificate, and it's called the points race. And you do your exams and you give a particular level of points. And those points translate into particular university courses, who then do that over the next 3 or 4 years. And so I'm just wondering, do you have any particular views on what we call here terminal exams, where 1 point, 1 day, one result?
So that might compare to our SAT or ACT exams, um, which we're kind of moving away from. We moved away from them during the pandemic, and I don't know that we're bringing them back, although all bets are off currently with this administration. Um, so I I don't know. I have mixed feelings about them. I don't like that they sort students into a certain path when the student may want a different
Uh,
path. Um, because some students just don't test well, right? I don't know. I have mixed feelings about them. I also we have exams that the students at our high schools have to take, and many of the disabled students opt out of those exams. And I kind of wish they wouldn't. I wish they would still just try them because they're perfectly capable of taking them. But I don't know. I don't know. I have
Yes,
mixed
yeah.
feelings. Mixed feelings.
Here to have a
I
conversation.
guess, yeah, it's not a obviously you'll you can never well, you would try to accommodate everybody, but just the way that the education systems have gone. I know, like as Ken says, we have that like massive final exam at the end of our 5 or 6 years of high school or secondary school, second level. But I noticed when I came back to work here in a university, and I had been to this university 30 years ago, when everything was based on your final exam, or your end of year exam, but now they seem to be doing more continuous assessment. So there still are exam periods at the end of semesters or trimesters, but I think it's the weighting, it's worth less. It used to be like your whole everything led up to that, and then if you failed that day because you were feeling horrible, then that was it, kind of thing. But I think there's more of an acceptance of taking in continuous assessment and allowing students to have that facility, so that it's not all dependent on one day, like a 3-hour exam in one day or whatever. So I mean, like I think that, like, to me that's the way to go. But also then how do you maybe that's not a definitive measure, and that maybe that's a debate for another time perhaps. And again, it's like some people test really well and others just aren't able. So it's who knows what's best.
While you're talking, Valerie, I'm thinking that we should apply universal design to that
Yeah,
whole experience. Yeah.
definitely.
Certainly, I mean, my personal opinion is that that terminal exams don't necessarily work well for those that would have a neurodiverse conditions. And I think as Valerie was saying, that we certainly need to move to a system whereby there's more continuous assessment, and that shows how they did really well during the year, not just on one 3-hour period at the end of May in here in Ireland. Um, but maybe just one last question for myself, and this is probably slightly more contentious again. But I'd love to get your views. You say you've been, in this area for, as you're saying, approximately 20 years now at this stage. And you will have seen, the people accepting, rejecting America's DEI. Where do you see the neurodiversity, not say bandwagon, but, agenda moving, and where do you expect it to go over the next 10, maybe 15 years?
That really is a controversial question. Okay, let's see. What can I say? So I personally have been moving more in the direction of diversity of thought and diversity of experience is valuable to any group, organization, or team. So there will always be a place for neurodivergent people. Whether we call it neurodiversity or we don't, I think is immaterial. As we move towards understanding that, again, the original concept of neurodiversity, just like biodiversity, we need many different kinds of animals in biodiversity. We need many different kinds of people for thinking, right? We can't just have all the same people. Now, here in the US, there's this movement to go to, we need the best person for the job. Well, the best person for the job is someone who expands the culture of your team or your organization, not someone who just fits into the culture of your team or organization, right? And so that's where I'm headed, is look for the people who think differently than your rest of your team so that you can make your team larger and not just shrink it.
No, thank you, Brett. Again, we would say much the same opinion here, that in terms of organizations, that that you need those people that are able to think differently, and for organizations, as I always say, to thrive and survive, you need particular sets of people, and those people are generally those people with neurodiverse conditions. And we talk about having people outside the box. Well, get people who are already outside the box, who already have autism, dyslexia, dyspraxia, and who want to thrive and survive. You got to get them on board.
Yeah, and throughout history, they were never labeled as such, and
Mm.
I don't hate labels. I think labels are very important, and I think it's good to know what your condition is, what how you think, and everything. But if we have to move away from labels to be safe, then we'll move away from labels to be safe. It doesn't change who we are and how we think.
No. Well, thank you very much for your frankness. I appreciate you answering the questions. At this stage, I'll hand back to Timmy unless Valerie has any questions.
I just see that Gregory has raised his hand, raised their hand there. I'm not sure if
No.
maybe it was a slip of the mouse or something. Um, Gregory, if you want to ask another question, perhaps you put it in the Q&A or the chat. Just see if anything pops up.
Sue says, I'm a late diagnosed autistic student in the middle of a degree, and the neurodivergent students in my class and other degrees are being denied our rights in our college. I've been advocating for 2 years and now wish to create a neurodivergent social educational group. Any tips? Um, okay. Um, to create the group, I would try starting with any outlets that your college or your university has for social groups, which I don't know what those are, but I would maybe go there and see if you can start like a club or something like that. Um, or if there is a social media, I know our students use Discord. Um, you could try starting there. I would advertise it on social media and say, hey, I'm starting this group. Definitely try word of mouth. Let maybe some of your faculty know. Ask if they will advertise it in classes. That would be my best advice. Is there a
I
way to
think
raise Grigori to a panelist so he can ask his question?
let me just see. Oh no, sorry.
Oh, I'm not entirely sure. I'm just looking at any of the
There he is.
functions.
Oh yeah, I've
Oh,
just
great.
allowed him to
Oh,
speak.
sorry about that. I tried to type
Thanks,
my
Gregory.
question several times, but I couldn't make it make sense. I mean, something coming to Ken, I'm neurodivergent as well, and I kind of very much feel that there's always kind of been soft success within society because neurodivergent people have always been part of it. And there's enough kind of research to show that all through history you could say that advances and changes and things came along because people thought differently, and in a way maybe with a more regularized educational system, and in Ireland everybody does the Leaving Cert and hopes and aspires to go to university, um, that the system being more rigorous leads to some more negative outcomes. So I would deal with a lot of extenuating circumstances cases, and students who are neurodivergent, and they don't end up needing supports through extenuating because they're neurodivergent. They do so because it's accumulated into a mental health issue. And that, it just gets more and more complex for them. And our students will have maybe had good supports in secondary school and then emerge into this environment where it's, hey, congratulations, you got your points, you're very bright, you should be able to do this, and then struggle. And again, things like universal design sounds great, but I would agree somewhat on the bells and whistles. It doesn't reach not all boats are lifted equally by it. And I think we do still need to make massive strides in recognizing the manner in which different learning and different objectives and different cognitive styles aren't necessarily catered for, to the loss of us all,
Oh,
because we don't get to reveal some of those out of the box thinkers, except in very narrow areas of, say, computering and everything, which becomes a stereotype and still hides that soft ability that's always acting within organizations, but not necessarily getting the recognition for it.
Yes, I agree. I agree. I was one of those students who did quite well in high school and had a terrible time in college, which is why I do the work that I do right now. So thank you for wrapping that up nicely for us, Grigori. I think you stated the problem clearly that many neurodivergent students have when they get to college and university.
Thanks, Grigori.
Okay. So certainly our discussions this evening were wide-ranging, uh, and that's a good thing. It's also nice, Grigori, to see you again, by the way. And what I would say to everybody is if you want to look at Sarah's work, uh, their profile is on the Bellevue College website, and there are actually a number of really accessible resources that you may wish to take a look at. So, uh, Sarah and your team certainly. I think it's a good template, neurodiversity navigators for other universities or colleges to try to emulate. And again, thank you so much for giving of your time. Uh, so we can begin to finish up from there. Certainly, thank you to our contributors as well this evening for asking questions. Uh, I really must emphasize the Bellevue College website of Neurodiversity Navigators. If you put Sarah Saunders Gardner into Google, you will find all their work there. So thank you very much, everybody.